2000 to order at 7 o'clock. Brianna, will you please call roll?
Yes, Counselor Gilson.
Here.
Counselor Ross.
Here.
Counselor Isa.
Here.
Mayor Lockenbrock. Counselor Flores.
Here.
Counselor Strauss.
Here.
Counselor Donner.
Here.
Yes, please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hopefully everybody can hear me and my voice will last throughout. And thank each and every one of you who took time out to be here tonight. Any guests who are physically present need to make sure and sign in at the sign-in sheet near the door. Tonight, we're running a hybrid meeting to continue to allow those who want to attend remotely to do so. But to cut down on the background noise and feedback, remote attendees should mute themselves while not speaking. Staff members and guests on the agenda will need to unmute themselves to give reports to council. Audience members may unmute themselves to speak during citizens' comments. First item on the agenda is the council minutes from August 13th, 2024. Entertain a motion.
Promotion.
Yes, entertain a
Okay.
motion.
I move the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the August 13th city council minutes as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is agenda adjustments. Brianna, do we have any?
None, no agenda adjustments.
Good. I lost my, no, I got my script. I just lost my, that's.
That thing?
That thing. Okay. The no adjustments, financial reports. They're delayed this month.
They are indeed. And so the reason that they are delayed is because we had a really short week for Labor Day and getting ready for the barbecue. And so I told Larissa that it was a low priority this month because we will finish reconciliation and get it, we'll double up on next month. And I thought you would all understand.
We gotcha.
Okay.
But there is a typo.
Oh, is it? Let me see.
Day reports will be available.
Oh,
Day reports,
They reports.
typing so fast.
The fact you got extra letters in there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
so we'll have those at the October meeting.
We'll just have two financials.
Next on the agenda is delegations. Do we have Lynn County? Is he coming?
He has not said that he's not coming,
Okay,
and so.
He's not here now.
We'll have our second delegation.
okay. Next item on the agenda delegation. The Oregon Cascades West Council of Government. Ryan.
You want us up there?
Sure.
Yeah, it's easier, I think, for the mics to pick up. and
Yeah.
A little closer to the,
Over there, please.
yes.
Thank you.
Formal.
Yes.
Good evening, counselors. Thank you so much for having me back. As a reminder, I'm Ryan Vogt, the Executive Director of Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments. With me today is our new Community and Economic Development Director, Jacqueline Disney, and I'll let her introduce herself in just a moment and talk about some of the great things going on in community and economic development. Partly because by having a permanent director now, we've got some vision around where that department's going to go, which means we're probably going to be spending a little bit more time in his backyard, which is going to be very In your packet is our annual report. This has grown over the last couple of years since I've been here in terms of the level of sophistication, but the data's stale because it was 2023 and here we are already in September. So it's great to have for context, just to have an idea of kind of where we exist in the community and the types of things that we're doing. One of our board members likes to refer to us as a friendly octopus because we just have our fingers in so many different services, and every council state does a different book of business. So it's great for context, but from a numbers perspective, some of that's a little bit stale for you. In preparation for this meeting, I had a conversation with Brianna and the mayor about just kind of our ongoing relationship and what it's looked like over the years, and kind of why the COG, why is that important for the city of Halsey, and why and why should it matter? And I would say that the Council of Governments has enjoyed a pretty long relationship. We have a fantastic relationship with the prior city manager, and I don't have any reason to believe that would change. In fact, I was talking about the fact that the prior city manager, Hillary, sat on my hiring panel. And when the announcement was made that I was coming on board, she got on my calendar to meet with me for lunch before I even had a calendar. So she was the very first person on my calendar to go to lunch, and educated me quite deeply on wetlands issues and where we've gone with the regional consortium over the years, and great ideas for advocacy at the legislative level and things of that nature. So the relationship has been strong. That being said, I don't necessarily own all of the sins of the past in terms of responsibility, but I do take accountability for where we are now. And in the past, I would say it's fair to assert that the Council of Governments is not always focused on rural issues. And the belief that we've been kind of Albany centric or Corvallis centric, and I get that a lot from the coastal communities. I think that we have a history of doing that. We also have a history in community and economic development, which again, Jacqueline's going to talk more to, of a number of years before I came on board, of making a lot of promises and not doing so. And so I spent the first couple of years, admittedly, in the middle of COVID. I was hired initially in March of 2020, right as COVID hit, and they even pulled the offer because they didn't know if we were going to be a viable organization. So it came to July of 2020. And as we brought on a new economic development director and things of that nature, to the extent that we could, we got out a little bit. It is my passion to recognize that Albany and Corvallis, Newport, Lincoln City, a number of those areas in our region actually have many of the resources they need. What they need from the Council of Governments is help coordinating and help advocacy. But Halsey, Brownsville, Sodaville, Harrisburg, Monroe, Siletz, these are places that really councils of government are formed for. The efficiencies that can be created by having one resource serve multiple communities so that the communities don't each have to bring on their own city planner or their own tech services department or their own what have you. Now, I come here and say that the proof is in the pudding, right? We used to have a tech services contract with the city of Halsey, and a prior tech didn't prioritize that contract, and we lost that contract. I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. We're a different tech services world than we were 5 years ago. And at some point in time, policy may consider a different engagement. So I'm here to own, not necessarily to grovel, but I'm here to let you know that we are on our way to being a different. One of the things that was specifically asked, Brianna asked me to keep this to less than 2 hours, so I'll try to keep it. Yeah, quickly. One of the things that was asked was really what is the benefit of membership? because it's a nominal fee to be part of the membership. And the main thing that comes with membership is being able to have somebody on the board. It's one voice, one vote. Every member agency gets one voice, one vote. So it doesn't matter what size you are, you get the same voice. And enough people advocating for the same issue can really move who we are as a direction of the board. It gives you access to the area commission on transportation and being able to be there to prioritize transportation issues for the region. Gives you access to being on the regional consortium to navigate wetlands issues. And advocacy at the legislative level around that. And then we do have a number of a la carte services that are available for a substantially discounted price. Jacqueline's going to talk a little bit about our grants program, where we're trying to help write grants for the rural communities at a discounted rate or a free rate if it can fit into some of the 3395 funding that we got. But like I said, we also have technology services and things of that. So I'm wide open for more questions later. I joke about 2 hours felt completely flat because I know you really want me to move on. So, but Brianna can catch me anytime. You all can reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to always come back as well. So, but thank you for continuing to be a member. Thank you for having me. And I am happy to come anytime and chat about what it is that we're doing in more in depth instead of just an annual overview like this. So let me give you Jacqueline for a couple of minutes and then we'll move. Give me a real number. 5 minutes?
Oh, no, you're okay on time. We have a short agenda and I apologize. I wasn't trying to not joke having some tech issues. And so I was a little bit multitasking.
That's okay. You don't want over 2 hours.
We don't.
Okay.
Wow.
That was maybe 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So for those of you who haven't met or not seen online, I'm Jacqueline Disney. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director that joined the Cascades West Council of Governments group in January. So I'm relatively new to the community. So I really appreciate being here and being able to talk with you. I know I've had some staff reach out to your city manager in the summertime. So I think that was around June. We had a chance to meet with Susan, our grant writer, and
Yes.
she was busy doing what we call our regional needs assessment. So she literally went county by county and looked up every city and started talking with all the administrators and city managers, because her goal was to do a comprehensive needs assessment of what's the theme, right, of the needs in our region. And economic development looks so different depending on your population size, your capacity of your staff, the access that you have to resources, even your location. So when we talk about economic development, a lot of people think commerce, they think business development, they think industrial growth. And that's an important part of economic development, but really we like to think of ourselves as community and economic development. So that's going to be, it's going to look different depending on the needs of the community. So as we moved across the region, you know, we can see these themes like need for wastewater treatment, water treatment facilities, things that support sustainability and growth. So you're ready for economic development and economic growth in your region. So a lot of what our staff does is the planning pieces, transportation planning, land use planning, grant writing, and some of those economic development planning services. We offer a lot of different things in that arena. We have a couple of transportation planners that are administering our metropolitan planning organizations for the Corvallis and Albany areas. But we also have a land use planner that focuses on some of our rural development projects, fields and wetlands projects. And we also, a lot of people forget that we operate a brokerage. So the Ride Line program is a non-emergency medical transportation brokerage, and that's a big mouthful. What that is a program that supports Oregon Health Plan, Medicaid, and Medicare eligible clients have transportation to and from their medical services, their drug and alcohol services, as well as their mental health services throughout the region. So we operate a call center to receive all those calls. We receive hundreds of calls a day. We are scheduling tens of thousands of rides every quarter between here and the coast. And it's really exciting that we can help so many people in our region. So that is another big part of what we do in our department. In addition to those planning services, we also have a commercial lending person. Her name is Dee Dee. She's our commercial lender. She's got over 20 years of experience. She operates our small business lending program. It's called the Cascades West Business Lending Services. And that's to help some of our small businesses, entrepreneurs access funding where maybe they've been unable to access private financing from one of the commercial banks. And this is a small business to get off the ground and get people into their own businesses, which is really exciting. And that's primarily the programs that we offer. I could go on all day about them because I think they're really exciting, but I know time is limited. So I'm here for any questions. We're here to collaborate with you and just try to understand what your needs are and do our best to find resources where we can and see how we can fit into helping you plan your community. So appreciate you guys taking the time and listening to us today. And we're here for any questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. What exactly is the purpose of the shuttle to the coast? Is that a medical shuttle or what's?
Oh, the non-emergency medical transportation brokerage service. So if we have a customer, we actually have two kind of groups. We have a Valley scheduler that schedules rides for people to go from their homes to hospital discharges or the pharmacies or things like that. And then sometimes you have customers that live on the coast that need to come into the Valley. That's not really common, but that is something that can be done. Or if they have a medical treatment or a discharge that's maybe in the Portland area, we'll coordinate some of those rides. Most of the non-emergency medical transportation services will be centralized, like either in the Valley, so you'll have your customers in the Valley that are going to their medical appointments, or also on the coast as well, so they're seeing their medical providers.
So how much does that get utilized?
We have about, I think about 26,000 rides were scheduled in the months of May and June. So in a 2-month period, that was like over 20,000 rides. That was probably encompassing about 5,000, maybe 5,100 unique customers to taking advantage of those services. So those non-emergency medical transportation appointments are going to be for, regular checkups, for going in for chemotherapy, things like that, pediatric appointments, mental health, drug and alcohol treatment appointments as well.
So, Counselor, if I may, just want to make sure that we're answering the same question that you're asking. It says the brokerage service, we dispatch individual rides almost like an Uber service. People call and they need to get to the doctor and we dispatch a driver to go pick them up and take them to the doctor.
Yeah.
We're not, okay. Just want to make, since you were asking about a shuttle between the two, that's not.
So is the shuttle service, is that owned by the government, or is that something you contract with private medical transport, or?
So we're responsible for making sure that all the riders are eligible for reimbursement from the Oregon Health Plan. We run the call center to receive all the calls and we manage all the contracts with the providers. We've got about 28 providers within which they all have their own driver networks that they go and schedule those rides and dispatch them, but they work through us and they're certified through us to make sure that they can get those rides done.
One thing we hear echoed quite a bit in smaller communities is grants being offered that funds need to be matched by the city. And then by being in smaller cities, we often can't even match the funds for the grants. Is that something that y'all provide guidance for, or are the grants y'all provide 100% a grant and no matching involved?
That's a good question. And that is one of the prevailing problems, right, with other smaller communities. And so the tricky part is we're not the funding entity, we're kind of the matchmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So our grant writer is out there and what are the needs that we've identified? And then as we become aware of different opportunities, we'll have to match them together. We'll provide some guidance on walking through what the parameters of the funding is, and it depends on which agency is releasing those funds and what kind of strings they want to put on it. Sometimes you can find a grant where it's 100% granting. A lot of times there's a grant match, but sometimes it's an in-kind match. So you can count some staff labor or some contribution that the non-cash contribution that the community is making towards that grant. So we're here to help analyze that and kind of walk through it. Not every funding opportunity is a good fit.
Right.
So it's I always say all money comes at a price. So we have to help walk through that. And that's kind of our, that's a lot of what we do is trying to not just identify the funds, but really talk through whether or not it's a good fit. Sometimes with the matching opportunities where we see, pardon all of my ums, but I'm trying to think deeply about some of the regional grants that we recently went after, and that's where we saw a good benefit for a collection of communities. So we did a Safe Streets for All grant. It was a access through ODOT. And it was to reduce traffic fatalities on some of the major thoroughfares. And so we pulled together a number of communities in Lynn County. We also did a separate grant that pulled together a number of communities in Lincoln County. So we could do a group application on that, and that seemed to help kind of alleviate some of those match requirements. There was still a match, but being able to do the regional level grant allowed the communities to share the load a little bit.
As far as like outreach to directly to citizens, do you guys have any part of that? Because looking at some of the numbers on the report, like 4 people in Halsey served by Meals on Wheels. I know there's a lot more members of Halsey that could utilize that, and the same thing as, 3 received the Medicaid benefit assistance. So is that something that we need to rely on citizens to be reaching out to the city to help that, or do you guys outreach to local communities or to the organizations? Because there's not always going to be a lot of residents that are coming to the city thinking that they can even, get help on that through the city.
Yeah, we do outreach, but we probably don't have the same penetration rate, so it would be great to partner with that. We have started putting together newsletters that are program specific, so they're more easily digestible, about once a quarter that we send out to the city managers. And then some cities have chosen to stuff them in their utility bills, some have just hung them up at City Hall or what have you. And so there's a variety of ways that we can do that. We're always open for new ways to do that. And as an update, City of Halsey now has 12 residents on the Meals on Wheels program. We've received just over 1,000 meals so far this year.
No.
So.
So just to build on what Stacy said, I was the representative to be on the committee, the board of directors, and I found it really difficult I'm not saying I was the best representative from the group. That was one of the things that I was kind of voluntold to do when I first got on council. But I found it really hard to engage, and I think you guys are doing a lot of great things, a lot of social services, but everything's kind of all over the board. And so pulling, what's applicable to Halsey out of those resources was a little bit difficult. I think the newsletters, I've never seen one of the newsletters, but I think that's a good start, because I was having trouble, relaying information that I gathered at the meetings. Granted, I think I only made 3 meetings and they were all towards the beginning of my stint as counselor. But it was hard to, pull out applicable information and then relay that to the rest of council and to the public. And all the meetings were, during the day, which I understand, this is your full-time job, but as a member, as a representative, I essentially couldn't attend any of those. And you did make it easier when, they went online and you could, phone in. But it is right in the middle of the day depending on what your work schedule is, it's really tough to engage in those and be a productive member, because the information probably needs to go both ways. And I did have lunch with you, that one day, and I really appreciate you making time to kind of explain in the beginning, what the setup and layout was. But I think if there was a way, or like and there might be one now, but just a chart that lines out, all the resources that you have, and then which municipalities are eligible for which, ones would be super helpful. Because the Meal on Wheels, that was shocking that only 4 people had actually taken advantage of that.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. And I would be more than happy to get back together with you and continue to flush these things through, or if somebody else is now in the voluntold chair, whoever that may be, and or to try to find ways for meaningful participation for you or one of the counselors, if the time is a constraint. That time's not dictated by me, it's the board that decides that's the time they want to do it. And so But I'd love to sit down with you and continue to talk that through. In terms of the array of services, most of our services are eligibility based. And so there's not a municipality per se that is not eligible. So Meals on Wheels, you may have, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you probably have citizens, more than 12 citizens that may be eligible for Meals on Wheels. That's a penetration issue. That's a marketing issue. That's a fear of government issue. That's a lot of different issues. But it's not because we don't offer it. It's because we're not doing a good job of advertising it or getting that out through your community. As members, everything that we do is essentially available to you. We just have to figure out how to make that work. So,
And yeah,
so
I
the
was,
things like, technology services and stuff like that, is that something you want? Then we'll sit down and talk through what that might look like. But particularly on the social services side, everything we offer by and large is eligibility based. We'll get it out.
and part of that is on me too. It was just, how do I get a hold of that information and help you get it out to our community? And so if there was, I don't know, an easier way to, digest that and to just give it to us so we can get it out.
Yeah, more one pagers.
More one pagers.
Yeah.
And we can do one pagers of various.
That are like good for public and for distribution and public consumption about these kinds of programs.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
And that was actually, I was supposed to get a copy of that and it got sent to the previous counselor that was on the board and he wasn't around. And so it sat on his doorstep for about 6 months. And then finally, so I did that eventually, but it was just a month ago.
Quite.
Yeah.
Well, the offer still stands, but in the meantime, I'll also continue working with Brianna on.
No, that's great.
We might be able to get information.
I
And
said
it'd be great to see you again. I know it's tough to get you in the middle of the day.
two things. When I first started, however many years ago, there was a booklet that we got in our new counselor packet. And it was from you guys that had all the different services listed and how contact and phone numbers and stuff. It was really interesting. I've used it, mainly just friends, but different people I've passed on being like, look, you should take advantage of this. And I was able to give them a phone number. It was really interesting to look through it too, to see some of the services that you offered. It was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. So
I'm very happy to get that back in front of you.
That would be awesome.
We put a similar thing together for board orientation for new board members.
Mhm.
Of course, this is an election year, and so in February or March, we'll be doing another half-day board orientation for new members or invites to all
Mhm.
board members. But I provide that physical packet if they want, or electronic packet that's everything from our bylaws and our articles of agreement to all the various committees we run to the services we
Yeah.
provide to get a hold of. So
I just,
I'm happy to get that to you.
the booklet I've used a few different times, like I said, just to be able to pass on the information. It was interesting,
And you can always direct people to our website as well.
right? Okay.
All right, last call for questions?
I would say the one other thing is it possible we could set up some kind of like get together or something, like an evening and be able to invite the community to come visit or something? See,
Something like that would be,
it just,
I would love something.
yeah, I mean, we could do it downstairs in the, yeah. Just to be able to help you be able to, like you said, penetrate the community, but
And you may, maybe the kind of thing where if you're gonna put that effort in, you might wanna have like other nonprofit.
Right.
Community action agency, what have you here, so people could even round robin, here's the,
Mhm.
get services from all the people. In one
Sure.
section.
so,
Yeah. happy to do it.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Lynn County Sheriff. It's your turn.
Go fast. Anybody, you know the cougar in town?
Oh,
No?
what?
Oh, okay.
Was that for real?
Nope, it's not for real.
Oh.
I wanted to-
Okay, because I did hear about it.
Okay.
I saw it on Facebook. Somebody commented.
That's what happened to my chicken.
Okay, I was thinking,
Dozens of comments, so
Yes.
I actually investigated that, with Oregon State Police Fish and Wildlife. their troopers as well as Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And where the cougar was said to be seen walking, I reviewed 3 different homes video surveillance. It did not show a cougar walking where the female said it was. So I want to put some of the record, last I checked, had like 75 something comments. And it turned like 1 cougar to 3 cougars, cougar to kittens, and it was just like.
Female, yeah.
I don't know what she saw. Very confident it wasn't a cougar. All the fields around here are plowed. It was the east end of town. I checked the dirt. We had dogs, but I'm very confident there was not a cougar in town, and the call came in later in the morning. More than one person surely would have saw a cougar walking through town. So I just want to put that to rest. Some people were getting all up in arms about locking dogs and cats up, and when they do that, there's no cougar in town. Everybody's safe. Okay. Maybe not exciting for you reading the agenda, but a little more action for us in Halsey last month. We arrested somebody for child abuse. I can't comment too much on that because it's a pretty severe case that's still pending and I will be tied up for a couple of months. We arrested somebody for a crash, a hit and run. Caught up with them, they didn't want to be held accountable for causing the crash, so we were able to track them down. And we arrested somebody for manufacturing marijuana. So the use of marijuana, there's a lot of sticky parts that go with that in Oregon, like laws and stuff, right? You can use it in the privacy of your own home. You can have up to 4 plants. In some circumstances, you can grow more than that. This is another case where I can't comment too much on the details, but it was far more than what you can possess. I don't think it was to like distribute out of the state or country for profit or anything like that. Just trying to take advantage of the system a little bit, I guess. So nothing like when we did the search warrant on the in the town,
Right.
you know, that was thousands of plants, you know. This was, I'll say, more than 20, less than 50. Less than you can have 4. So a lot more. Other than that, we had 2 speeding citations. No, 2 stop signs, 1 speeding. And we wrote someone a citation for the dog at large. The dog stuff is pretty common in all the cities when the weather is nice. We usually try to fix these situations with warning first and then enforcement second. And so if you get a citation for your dog at large, you've already been talked to about it before, or your dog has damaged or destroyed something while running at large, and then we'll just resort straight to enforcement if your dog was running amok for hours. Questions, comments?
Is the child okay?
Yes, that's fine. Yep.
On the paper, it seems like a fiasco going on Fourth Street, I think. Is that something?
Yeah, so that's all related to the child abuse.
Oh, okay.
So these calls, for us are very in-depth.
Mhm.
So we go out there for an issue, right? But there's so much follow-up that goes on with that, because we deal with the issue at hand. And once that gets resolved, we have to go back for video surveillance. We're interviewing other family and neighbors.
Mhm.
You've heard of like mandatory reporters, like teachers in schools are mandatory reporters, right? So our DHS calls increase during school years because kiddo will talk to teacher has report to law enforcement. Law enforcement is kind of the same with DHS. So we go out there and there was an altercation between dad and kiddo, right? Kiddo ends up injured, we have to cross report that to other agencies like DHS.
Mhm.
In this case, DHS doesn't want to go out there alone. And so we accompany them for their interviews. So we'll do criminal interviews, they'll do like resource interviews. But because of the nature of the call, they want us there. And so we create just a call to document what we're doing. If we're outside of our vehicles going in a home, there's always a call created just so other deputies and dispatchers and supervisors know where we're at.
Okay.
So a lot of those calls aren't really related to us. I would say probably half of those we're following up with other agencies trying to get families still at the home resources.
So how many of your 74 hours do you think you spent on that particular case?
So I'll be honest with you, technically none.
Okay,
Because that would be a call, the type of call and the severity of it, we would go whether there's a contract or not. Right, so that's a really good question. Let's touch on this every couple of months. So the contract hours should really be spent on visibility and proactive patrols and spending time in the city, like not on calls. It should be more like self-initiated, like contact, spending time at schools, contacting like suspicious people walking up and down the road late at night, something like that. Your burglaries, stolen cars, child abuse investigations, whether there was a contract between the city and the sheriff's office to provide more services, we would go to those games. But if there was a contract, we surely wouldn't spend 72 hours in town. It'd be pointless.
I just noticed that there were, I mean, I can't remember what it was last month, but like 73 incidences because you had bumped up the traffic patrol in town, and then this month you had that incident, which, you know, I guess put into effect all those other calls, and then we only have, you know, really 9.
Yeah. For
Either
traffic.
43, but
Yeah, so that's, in my opinion, more of your norm for Halsey.
Okay.
In the 72 hours. I think statistically, if we're to pull like 12 months worth, I think Halsey would show 5 to 10 traffic stops a month. We had some overtime in our budget, and we're getting some complaints regarding the construction, and we had the manpower at that time to throw a bunch of resources at it. And so we hit it really, really hard. But I think I made this statement last time, you can't expect those types of numbers. I mean, that's 50 stops that end in a citation and then another 30 that end in the morning. At $8,000 to $10,000 in overtime for us, probably, you know, throughout a week or so. So.
okay. Well, thank you for all that. And 3 arrests seems like a lot for Halsey in a month.
Definitely higher than the norm. Yeah, nothing. When you look at it though, we talk about all the time, like there's nothing to talk about Halsey, it's so boring, it's like Mayberry, nothing's going on, we're not making arrests, all this stuff, if you look. It's nothing like a public danger, right? There's no like cars being broken into a burglaries or anything. 2 of them were in their privacy of their own home. And one person made a poor decision and hit a mailbox and took off, you know. So nothing that like anybody should really be concerned about as a society or residents is within Halsey.
Any other questions? All right,
You have an audience.
well, next up is citizen comments, so we can take it then. Well, I'm sure he can give you his contact information and you can talk to him outside of the meeting. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. This is the time for interested citizens and anyone in the audience to address the council on any items of concern. Please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Please start by introducing yourself and state your name, your address. Okay, moving along. Next item on the agenda is reports to council. Brianna, do you want to give the city administrator's report?
I will indeed. Have a good night. Okay, city administrators report, parks project. We have equipment, it has been installed, there's actually more to come. So, not everything was gonna ship in time, and we really wanted to be able to have some tangible stuff in the ground for the barbecue. So what we have already is the stuff that you see. The tunnel, and it is a play structure, and it's just really exciting. I know that I inherited this project and that, we had a Parks Committee that worked really hard, and we had, Julia, who helped with grant writing and with some, you know, of being a big part of conceptualizing that plan, but it's really, really fun to see those plans come to fruition. I got a lot of word from people whose kids were eager to get in there because the construction fencing was up for like a week. I know Counselor Strauss was one of the people who was like, so many kids. And there was a couple days, you know, just out there because we were trying to conceptualize like where some of we had the professional installation for the large structure, but then there was the tunnel. And we know more stuff is coming, so you know, we were kind of like looking at the space and making sure that we're following safety protocol for the spacing of other items as we try to grow that area. And while I was out there on more than one occasion, if there was kids anywhere in the area and they saw any action in there, they were like running over to be like, at the fence, oh, what's going on? So I think it's a hit, and that's, you know, it makes me really happy. I'm sure all of you share that sentiment. I think that because we have some room, we have some room in the budget to buy a few more things. Some things are already ordered. The Schlutz tribe gave us a grant for the climbing structure. And so we have that climbing structure already on order, and some of the exercise equipment that was in the Oregon Parks and Rec grant. But it looks like playground equipment budget left. So we will reconvene as a library parks committee and talk about some ideas for that and get some more things ordered. So by next summer, we'll have a bunch of stuff hopefully in the ground. And then we have drafted our RFP for the big path. And that is a huge project, and we let go of the idea that it's gonna be possible this fall. We're aiming for either spring, depending on how soft the ground is. And if it's not feasible in spring, then I think that our standard is that we would like to have no work in the park in July and August, because that's our peak season. That's a really, really big job. And so if it's not achievable in spring, when we get those bids and we put in those deadlines, then they would be able to come back, you know, in late September or fall to finish the project, because we would not allow that work to happen during our peak season. So that is coming along. Tree removal is still planned for this fall. That should be happening before the end of the month. Andy has been working with the vendor that we have.
We did find a vendor.
Got a vendor who has been selected for that bid. It's gonna be a lot of tree work, so it was not reasonable to try to squeeze it in for the barbecue. It's also frankly going to be ugly before it gets better. So I think it's just fair to acknowledge that losing trees is hard. They are causing a lot of damage. That's why they were included in the grant. But there's going to be like this growing pains period of doing replacement trees and letting those grow up so that we can kind of like, you know, restore the beauty of that section of the park. And obviously we have other trees. It's gonna be a big change. Let's see, anything else fun about the park? Oh, trees again. We identified 2 other trees on the north end of the park, on each corner essentially. One is really close to the skate park, and right by where the new entrance from like the sidewalk coming in off 99 comes in right there. It's right next to that. And then on the other side, right in the corner, kind of by the basketball hoops. And they're the same kind of tree, with their linden tree. And you can see if you walk the path, there's actually quite a bit of damage from the root system. And so what I'm trying to do is research. It's like the only shade on that end of the park. And we have planted trees over there. Last spring they planted trees. Some of those trees are very small. And so the research I'm trying to do is I've got a connection with City of Eugene's urban forestry program. It's like rock and rolling for decades. They're very, very established and have a lot of expertise. And I got a contact person that I can reach out to with them, just to pick somebody's brain and find out, like, if we cut roots, how bad will it impact the health of these trees? What is the likelihood those roots will grow back? And you know, to sort of delay or mitigate having to lose those trees, but they frankly might be on the chopping block. Our goal is to be able to just do root cutting and put that off a little bit until some of those trees that have already been planted get a little bigger. it would be really hard to lose that shade off.
Are they around or near the walking path or
Yes, they are destroying.
the walking path? So
Yes.
if we're putting in a new walking path, we have to
Yeah,
make sure and get,
and like I said, we can cut surface routes
yeah,
if it's not gonna make the tree unsafe.
right,
You know, if it's gonna be so damaging to the health of the tree that the tree becomes a hazard, then we might just have to get rid of them.
yeah,
I do hate to see them go.
right.
If you go walk the path right now, you can see the other areas where like the path is starting to buckle and get
Yeah.
really unsafe on the other end of the park now too.
Yeah. I haven't done on the path.
So that is all things park. Halsey Summer Barbecue, movie night, and the Tangent Harvest Festival. So obviously I couldn't write about that because it hadn't happened yet. The barbecue was, I think, a hit. We had a lot of nervous glances when the lightning was in the distance. But it's like the weather knew we were trying to have a party and it just skirted us the whole time. I was really
It
impressed.
started coming back.
We added a few things this year, so we did, I know in previous years, we've done like some bubbles and some other things, and we kind of set up an area with those similar things this year, added a couple things. The school lent us hula hoops. We got a few, dollar store things that were affordable that we can put in our library event bucket for when we do other things with the community. So they're usable for the most part. And we also got a face painter this time, and that was like really popular. And so I think that that those things were all things that it was really, really nice to see the community enjoy. They were obviously things that we offered for free to our community, so there was no revenue generation from any of those things. It was just something where everybody got to come and enjoy. Setup went really smooth. I just think that overall it was really, really successful. And one of the things that was nice to hear, because obviously this is my first one, is a lot of staff said to me that it's the least stressful. So, not to brag, no, but I'm just saying, I thought it went really well. It's kind of exhausting for us. We were down a staff member at City Hall all week. And she is luckily back and she's doing fine, but it changed our week of plans and we just rolled with the punches and everybody got it done. So congratulations to everybody and I think it went well. The Tangent Harvest Festival. So about a month or so ago, I mentioned that I went to their community planning just to kind of get an idea of like what they're kind of doing over there in Tangent, because they're having a lot of success. They're pretty young and it's a community-led organization where they're putting events on. And this is only their second harvest festival that they've done. And so I was just kind of trying to get an idea of like how they're building that excellence, like how they're building that engagement and that excitement. To see if we can sort of glean any of that to try to recreate it here in Halsey. And when I was there, I was, I was asked, they strongly recommended that Halsey join their parade. And so Abby joined me. It was me and Abby, and Mayor was supposed to be there, but his work schedule changed last minute and he was unable to be there. We felt bad about it, but we again rolled with the punches and it was fine. And then Billy, our public works staff, Billy and his whole family came out and we did the parade together and it was really fun. We decorated the car, we threw candy, we gave out like Mardi Gras necklaces. And one of the things that we did is because we want to promote our library, and Tangent actually doesn't have a library. And so we made a bunch of bookmarks and we taped the bookmark that had our library hours and like a QR code to our library webpage. And we taped those two candies so that we could throw them and you can't throw a bookmark. So, in a little bit we were able to say like, come to our library, you don't have to live there, you can come check us out, which is true because we have the plastic program. So I think it went well. Now less fun topics, well updates. This is the worst thing to tell you tonight. So we received our bids back on the well project and unfortunately they came in significantly higher than we had hoped, like significantly higher. So a few things about the way that the bid documents were developed is that they did go ahead and include control upgrades that are not necessary. And so we knew that going in, we were like, let's see what they say. Like what would it cost us to do these extra things? And so we know there's some things that we can cut off the top. We're continuing to have conversations with hydrologists, electrical engineers, all the people that are sort of like involved in the development of this project. And the bidding agency to sort of talk about how we get to a place where we can proceed with the project. Some of that, again, includes cutting back the scope of what the project looks like. We have funds that have a spending deadline. And so we have ARPA funds and we have state legislative funds, yes. Funds that have to be spent by specific dates, and both of those dates are coming up pretty quickly. And so we are working really hard to figure out what we're gonna have to do to bridge the gap between just punching the well, which we have the money to do, and making the well operational. Even if that means no bells and whistles operational. We have a pretty healthy reserve. It is, I will not, I strongly don't advise you don't get a reserve. So we would have to think about what is a reasonable amount of our reserve that we would be able to dedicate to that project, and then work hard to try to find other ways to not actually tap into that reserve. But we, you know, we couldn't spend it out. It would be financially irresponsible to do that. And so Civil West is coming to do a site visit tomorrow. And our public works guys are gonna be on site for that, and I'll go down to be on site for that so that we can continue to have these discussions. And once we get an idea of how we can, what that gap looks like, then we can press on. And so I will keep you guys informed of that. But as of right now, triple.
Triple, huh?
Wow.
So is there a way we could spend the funds that we have to get it to a point that is a decent point to stop work, so we can make sure that everything that we paid for is going to work at the end?
So one of the things that we are exploring is spending the funds that we have to punch the well. Because those things are within budget. And again, what we don't want to do, we have to know, again, that gap between, like, if we spend that money to punch the well and it's $1,000 more to get us operational compared to what we have in that bucket of money, like in all those other funding sources, we can work with that. Because we know that we can support some of it with our reserve, and we can just hustle hard to get some other money, right? But one of the other things that we run into, and that's honestly on the table, like we want to spend that money, we don't want to see it slip.
Yeah.
Right, we've worked hard for that.
On the table. We just have to make sure that that gap isn't too far for us to reasonably try to bridge. The other thing is, because we have filed additional points of appropriation permit for our water rights, like it's the same well, same water rights, but you're tapping into a new source point of it. And so we want to also be certain that if we just punch the well, we don't mess up our timeline for approval on that. So like, if it doesn't become operational, do we have to start that process over? And that process is not free, and it's very, very time consuming. And at what point will they require us to decommission our old well, which we're not using anyhow, but like there's other requirements from external agencies that have to do with water rights that we're navigating with that as well. So as long as we can not lose our additional point of appropriation, then I think that we're okay there. And we're just trying to figure that out.
They're not trying to point fingers or anything, but how did this happen? I thought we've been working really hard on this, and so many applications and permits and so much has gone into this, and then.
So I think that some of it is that the cost to actually punch the well is on par with what the estimates were. I think that where we are further off is all the things that make it well operational. It doesn't just simply being a well underground, right?
Right.
And there's things that we're like, we don't need that, and this seems high or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are things that we can do, like we can pull things out and be the general contractor instead of asking this bidder to be the general contractor. And so then we can potentially source other more affordable sources for things like putting the piping in or building the well house or some of these other things to see if those are ways that we can get costs down. But I think that ultimately when we were looking at what the well was gonna cost, starting almost 2 years ago,
Mhm.
the cost of the well was like 300,000. And to punch the well, and then there was this extra money and they were thinking like, that's gonna be enough to bridge that gap. To do the planning, to do the bid process, the engineering, and then whatever electrical work and stuff needs to happen. But that bridge is the thing that we were so off on, because now, about 1.5 years later, that well component is 380, which is actually pretty on par. Think about the time and,
Yeah,
so that piece I think is not so far off. I think it's the other thing that we apparently.
Yeah, so the inflation is,
well, that,
20 to 25%, but it's not 300%, right? So that's,
Yeah, and then again, some of those things are because in the initial bid, there was some fancier things that we already know that we're just not gonna do.
and they were super expensive.
Oh, so expensive.
Okay.
But never mind, we don't want that.
Are those things we can go back to later and do later?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about making upgrades, it's the control panels and the water treatment plant. At some point, we'll probably have to.
Yeah.
Because our system will become obsolete.
We'll just
So,
have to
yes.
find the money somewhere down the road.
Sure, right? I think it'd be nice to first find well money.
mhm.
And then the control panels can come in.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about well stuff?
No,
All right,
will you keep us updated though, what they say tomorrow or what you find out?
yeah, I will send you guys emails.
Okay.
As that develops. Because I'm curious myself.
Yeah,
Small cities allotment grant application, and so that's the thing that we did a couple years ago, we did all the chip sealing and stuff over on B Street, there was a bunch of stuff on the east side that got done. So that same grant program, Larissa had drafted something last year to do H Street on the west side. And, we were not actually eligible to submit yet because we were still doing our reporting on our previous grant. And so this time around, we are eligible, and she revived that, and she did all of the updates to that, got updates for the quotes, and she resubmitted it. So we, what we're asking for essentially is to focus on H Street, and that is because it's got the last gravel section in town. And, it's also significantly undersized. There's a few streets over there that are, but it's undersized for capacity, and it's actually undersized for what our design standards are in the city, and some of that contributes to things like emergency vehicle access and other safety issues, and capacity for that road. And because it's also the main road that goes across H Street and connects the two sides, we thought it would be a good candidate. It would include expanding the width of that road some, because right now it is at best 12 feet. It's very single lane. So we should hear back about that in November when they announce awards. Any questions about small cities? Okay. Annual audit, we have submitted our materials for annual audit. It was relatively painless. And we have received a draft report back. It is definitely not a completed report, but the things that I was really looking for, things that in auditor speak that say, we are not out of compliance. And they won't say, they don't give you the stamp of you're in compliance approval. That's not how they word it. They're very careful to say like, we're not evaluating this to make a decision about compliance. Like, that's not what we're here to do. There's a whole page about it. They say a lot of things like that, but we are evaluating it based off of all of these criteria. And then, so at the end, they say, we see no evidence that they are out of compliance. And that is how I put it. So that's good news. We had a lot of turnover in leadership this year. We had people on leave. We had a lot of stuff happening. And so it's looking like, despite all of that, that we did not audit. And then the very last thing is farewell to Abby. I know.
No.
And so, as many of you have heard, Abby is leaving, and her last day with the city is September 27th, so it's coming up so fast. I just wanted to make sure that we take time to acknowledge what an absolutely fantastic member of our team that Abby has been. I feel like Abby has, her tenure as librarian has brought in so much innovation to our small library. I watched her execute so many really successful programs, really fun summer reading, really, really good 5K. And, you know, I would go down and visit Abby at the library. I tried for once a week, not always successfully. And I would just visit with her and then like, you know, if patrons would come in and people like knew Abby. Like there was so much familiarity with the community. You know, and they'd come in and she'd ask them how's, you know, school starting, how's school going? And just like asking them questions about things that they've been involved in, because she like had just grown to know these kids that were coming in all the time and families and checking in with them. So she just really became like a member of our community. I'm so excited about all the things that she was able to implement. You know, the seed library, the library of things, getting a signature so desperately needed. Just some really, and a million tablets, some really cool stuff. And so, besides that, I just think that you're gonna go on to do absolutely fantastic things in the world. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations on graduating, and I wish you well in your next adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time. You gotta blow this popsicle stand and move out of state, right? Isn't that the plan? Yeah. So on a more technical note for Abby, Abby gifted us a full month's notice, which was fantastic. It has helped us to be able to try to get some folks hired, and I have made sure that in the budget, we have room for up to 2 weeks overlap. But that's inhibited by our ability to hire somebody quickly, right? So that we can have really good training between the two. You know, again, depending on how we're able to schedule interviews and stuff, it might only be a week overlap, but it will be better than no overlap at all. We had actually like 20 applicants, and we had so many applicants, and we did not post for very long, because even with that month timeline, we had to update our posting, we had to get it out, we had to give a reasonable amount of time to respond to that posting. And so the closing date was the 9th. And in that time, we got 20. There were people who didn't submit all that, you know, you have to submit cover letters. So there were some people that got scratched just because they didn't follow through with all the submission requirements. But I would say out of the people left, we had 11 with complete materials that made for the first review. And then we got it down to 8. And then down to like 4 and 2 maybes. And so we have a couple counselors who volunteered to do a review of the final candidates that we can take that into consideration for, like, we'll do our interviews. And then we can use those materials as, to add to our decision making. So.
That's impressive to get that many. That doesn't happen. Thing.
And we wouldn't get a big.
That's what I would have thought too, yeah.
Cool, but we had a really great interest, which is fantastic.
awesome.
And so. We are going to start calling to do interviews. We're hoping to have interviews scheduled for this Friday, next week and Wednesday next week. Obviously, some of that is contingent on people's ability to be available at those times. And we'll keep you posted.
Awesome.
She said that's
On the interview.
next
So
Friday.
the interview committee is Abby, myself, and Marissa. And then Counselor Strauss and Romer both volunteered to review materials and do scoring.
Mhm.
Do you want to review materials and do scoring?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, give me a- and so I will get those materials to you. I have theirs ready tonight. Is it okay if I can get those printed to you tomorrow?
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good. And those are top, like I said, we already went through and there was people who were like, their only experience was in veterinary offices. And so they might be fantastic people, but I don't know how transferable that is. Stuff like that. And so.
Well, and if we had enough others that would be, then
Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, we're hoping for, quick interviews, quick hiring, and,
Did you say this Friday?
so this, yes, but listen, that's not your deadline. You have a week to do reviews, because we
Okay.
are going to take that information for when we do our total review of all of our interview notes and any notes that you all make on the candidates.
Okay,
Okay,
that's better.
yes.
Perfect.
Okay, beautiful, and I will get you yours. That's it for me. Any other questions?
Did somebody send Julia a picture of what's been accomplished? Okay.
She did, yes.
Good thought.
There were kids playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sold on the tunnel and the kids were all over the tunnel. I was like, "This is almost done." No, that's really weird. That's not.
The kids good though.
Yeah, it's just good. Yes, that's why I wasn't in charge of picking the good thing.
Yeah, here's the thing, dude, throw a box on the ground, kids will play in that.
24, so I just out of touch, I guess. That's why I'm taking the decision to the library committee to invest.
I'm 32, I'll still climb in a box, huh?
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Public Works report with Andy.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Perfect. So here's my report for August. At the water plant, we attempted to program the generator. It exercises itself for a half hour every Tuesday, and it pulls a full load. And so when it pulls a full load, then there's a chance when it switches back from full power to regular power, it can make the variable frequency drive kick out, either from over voltage or under voltage. So when attempting to try to program that, I was talking to our generator guy and he says, "Oh, we should be able to fix that." So we got into the programming part of it, and the display unit to program that was completely out. Doesn't work anymore. So we thought, well, we could just replace that unit, and come to find out that we have to replace the whole thing. When that it kicks the jockey pump out, when it protects itself, that means the high service comes on. The high service comes on, well, it runs about 85 PSI in the system when we're running about 75 PSI in the system. And so that is not good. It could create leaks. And we've been thinking about, hey, let's try to prevent some of these things that could possibly be causing leaks in our system. And so at this moment, we got the cost for it. I think that work with Brianna on next year's budget system, and we can possibly get that repaired so that won't occur. For now, on every Tuesday around 9:36, when that jockey pump, when the generator switches over to the power, we're going to be in the water plant to monitor that so we can get a jump start on, hey, if that is under voltage or over voltage and kicks the 30 horse jockey pump out, that we can be there and get it switched over right away. In the wastewater department, we received the sludge testing for the wastewater treatment ponds with some good results. We have a lot of room for some total operation depth for the treatment. There is some sludge built up in the influent coming into the pond, which is understandable. Recommendation from the engineers to put it into a CIP to dredge the east side of pond number 1 in 2029, or a section and a section on cell 2 in 2023. But we're working on an alternative to possibly save costs on dredging. We're running some tests on a product that we have in some beacons at the wastewater treatment plant. We're doing a 3-month trial to see if that product might be something that we might think about applying to the ponds to keep the sludge down instead of the highly cost of dredging. But overall, the treatment plant is running like it should. Some things that we're going to do during the discharge season is to be able to slow down the treatment part when it goes out of the effluent, so we can have our TSS, total suspended solids results not be to be in compliance. And that was basically the whole reason why we started this testing, is to make sure that what our sludge depth was in our ponds, to eliminate that equation. And that's all I have for this month. Is there any questions?
Nope, I think that's it.
I have a question, just because we've gotten a few questions at City Hall about it, Andy. We are on the schedule for road patching, correct? Sometime this fall?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not in a good spot. We are on the schedule for road patching this fall, correct?
Correct. We've
Okay.
budgeted money, and we are with Blackstone. They're going to come in, they said probably sometime in October.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Andy. All
Yeah,
right,
we've had several calls recently about some of like, there's some areas where we've done water line leaks. There's like road patches and some of them, because we save them up for like a year, because honestly, it's just money for doing
Right.
that way. And so there's some that it's like, now it's gonna be fall and people are like, let's,
hello.
anytime. I
Yeah.
understand, I drove over too.
All right, Abby with the library.
Okay, so for updates, the exciting things are we were able to purchase all the books in all 3 age groups for the 2024 to 2025 Battle of the Books competition year. And we received a pretty big donation from the Library of Congress of new books. And I was surprised by this, but this was not actually the donation beyond Senator Ron White. This was directly from the Library of Congress, so we're still getting another donation from Senator Wyden's office, so I'm not sure exactly when, but probably the next month or so, we're gonna get probably another 100 books or so. The door is finally finished. I know last month it was installed, but the wrong glass pane or something like that. They had to come back and fix it. That's finally 100% done. We do not have to worry about that or them. Again, to mine. Everything for the Library of Things and for the technology grant is all up in circulation and available for use now. The launch pads and the computers and the headphones and all the accessories, all of that is available for checkout. We are not circulating the launch pads to be taken home yet. I kind of want to see like which ones are popular and what we do with them before we do that. They are meant to circulate, so I think we will do that hopefully soon. But other than that, we had 172 visitors for an average of 8.6 per day. This does include 2 days that we were closed and we would have normally been open, and then 2 of our summer reading events. And a total of 159 books were checked out, including renewals. 4 new library cards were issued and 92 items were added to the catalog. That includes the donated books, the OBOT books, technology, and all of that. I'm actually still processing some of the donations because there were quite a lot. So I do think there are some more that are going to be added soon. I started a weeding project this past week of books that mostly are just not in great shape. Not because they're bad books or they've never been checked out, but we had a lot of books that were mass market paperbacks or they were donated to us probably when the library opened. And we did have a lot of books that were just not really suitable to be in the collection anymore. So I'll probably read about 200 books total at least. But this has already freed up a lot of space for new titles, so that's good. That's kind of all I have for updates, but I wanted to come in person tonight and tell you all, I've been really, really honored and grateful to work here. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Kind of like Brianna was saying, I've gotten to know people here and Halsey is such a lovely place and community, and I'm really happy that I got to work with you all. And yeah, I want you to know I'm sad to be going. This wasn't my first choice for how this would all happen, but for some kind of various circumstances, I'm moving up to Washington sooner than I thought I would be. I wanted to stay with you guys longer, but sadly it kind of is what it is. But yeah, I'm really happy that I got to work here, and right now the library is in great shape. All the grants, all the projects are done. So whoever starts next, they're in really good shape. They can just focus on kind of getting used to the role and learning all the skills. They don't have to worry about events right away or anything like that. So yeah, I'll make sure they're trained and ready to go.
Well, again, thank you for your time and effort that you've put into the city.
Brianna, I want to tell you that I've been really impressed with your work. You've done a great job. The previous two candidates, I kind of suspect their qualifications were they like to read. And a lot of people think that's all there is to library work. There's a lot of work to it. And I think you've shown a real passion. And to me, library work is kind of almost an art to do it well. And I think you've done it really, really well. I've been very impressed with the work you've done. So,
So sad to lose her.
yeah,
But-
so
but- Yeah, listen.
Yeah, the community engagement was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the community got her at the barbecue because everyone was coming up and telling her how sad they were leaving. It was not helping when all the small children were sad when they found out she was leaving.
That's gonna make me cry.
I haven't told Aria yet, so be prepared for an aggressive visit.
Aggressive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
can I ask you a question? I've noticed in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 reports, it looks like there's an uptick in usage. Do you have any idea? Is that the reading programs or?
So the readings were well attended, and for those events, I don't count staff or volunteers, but I count everyone who attends the event.
Mhm.
Which is just kids and parents. I don't count the people who are doing a presentation,
Yeah,
but the parents and kids, I count everybody. Those were pretty popular. I think our most popular event, that was back in July, but we had 40 people. So that did give us a big boost for July and August, but this spring and summer has been pretty busy. We've had a really good circulation and a really good patron count. Unfortunately, kind of the holidays are over now. And it does slow down a lot in fall and winter, which is why it might be a good time for somebody to start too. But yeah, I'm already seeing with the kids back in school, it's already getting a lot slower.
has there been any involvement with the schools? I know we talked about the high school maybe. Is there any involvement in trying to incorporate our library and their?
Well, I talked to somebody about summer reading and then about OBOP, the Battle of the Books. I don't communicate a lot with them. The elementary school library is really, really impressive, so.
We did, I feel like when we were doing summer reading, we did share materials with contact at the district for to be shared out, and then we have counselors who are really involved in family and parent groups, and I feel like those things were shared in those venues for our districts, but I will say that I think that we could work harder to try to get our librarian in near the end of the school year, but before it's like so insane that they're just like trying to get kids out the door to promote summer reading. I think it would be really, really nice to get somebody in who could like maybe go to a few classrooms and talk for 5 minutes, even and just do a tour. If we could get them to be open to that, I think that would be really helpful to promote our library, especially to bridge that gap in summer.
Well, I was thinking
I
that,
wanted to go to the school board meetings, but they're always on Mondays. The library's open. So I'm not here. I really wanted to start going to those, but it was kind of never a convenient time. Kind of like Brianna said, there has been communication, but they weren't super responsive to me going out about summer reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more work to be done there.
I was emailing this summer with the receptionist at the grade school and someone at the district about summer reading to get like the things in the parent newsletter and like Parent Square when it was coming out. And then since my kids are younger, I have talked to some of the younger grade teachers about potentially doing like, if they would be interested later in the spring or something of doing like a library visit to like explain what a library is and library cards and that kind of stuff, because the library in the grade school is really impressive, but it's still set up differently than a public library, and they do have a new librarian this year. So she's kind of getting in to the feel of everything now too, because the librarian that they had last year had been there a while and she was amazing. So the new one's just kind of feeling stuff out now. So the pre-K and the kindergarten teachers, and one of the main aides in the office I've talked to just in like passing with school and some of the community events and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they were finding channels to get the information to parents, but that it would be nice to be able to go talk to them at school or get field trips going, something like that would be cool. I mean, it's small, so could you fit a class of 30 in there? I don't know.
Well, they're
Yeah, but maybe, but
Well,
maybe.
that's why I talked to the younger classes, because the younger classes are 16 and under. None of them are that big, because the kindergarten's split into two classes and the pre-K and the preschool are split into three.
Okay.
So like Aria's class is one of the bigger ones at 17 kids. Yeah, and I did talk to the district office this summer because they were only putting Brownsville summer reading in the parent square. So any events now, all I have to do is email her and she'll put Halsey's library stuff in like a blurb in like the parent square and like the parent newsletter that goes out to the schools.
Awesome.
Because yeah, it was literally just like Brownsville.
We have grades in the reading program.
I think ours was better than the other local ones, but that's.
Lots of public information now.
I didn't hear anything.
We had birds and music, so.
Yeah, cool. Okay, next, moving along here. Obviously, the mayor's not here, so he doesn't have a report. And to be honest, I don't have a school district report. I could make up a bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to, so. So we're skipping over those, moving on to new business.
Out of the meeting and started to play,
I could, but
everybody.
I was gonna go last night and my husband's like, no, you're not, go to bed. So, yeah, I didn't go. So, oops, front page, new business. First item, for new business is, what's that?
Personnel.
First and only item for new business is the greenery removal. Brianna, will you give us a summary?
Yes, okay, so the historic granary that is half removed over on West Fourth Street.
I never understood why they,
I think.
it was supposed to be,
Wildly expensive.
well, I think that, yeah, never mind.
So I met the owner of the old granary and he is moving forward with a project to remove the granary. There are components of the project that will require some road closures, some partial road closures, and for some portions, probably full road closures. So some of those things we've just talked about. I've already been in touch with ODOT because we want to have good communication plans and we're trying to avoid overlapping closures to the best of our ability, at least overlapping closures on 99. So they are doing paving and overlay, so you're gonna see some, with ODOT, you're gonna see some closures to like some of the side streets off of 99 on the east side. And so we don't want that to happen at the same time. We'll work together on that. The thing that is really before council is that one of the components of this project is the need to grind the wood. And so they have requested to be able to grind on site. The reasons that they cited are the project is currently, I spoke with them, they had engineers come, they have a demolition crew that's coming and they've done some, on-site visits and discussed the scope of the project. And it's, about $6,000 a day for them to do this removal. And they're looking at frankly, like, they said that 7 to 10 days, but they initially asked for 3 weeks and I was like, you can't close that road for 3 weeks. Grinding on site is gonna help with project timelines because it's gonna reduce the amount of hauling that's required. And it's also a pretty big impact on cost because when you have to have more trucks, that gets expensive.
Do you know if they researched reclamation at all?
They did, and the reason that they can't, he actually does reclamation. Like on his business cards, it says like wood reclamation and stuff, and
It just seems like such a waste.
they said it's so sappy, it's not usable. Because that was their original plan.
Yeah, you would.
Bummer.
think
I know.
it'd be
Yeah.
nice straight grain.
Stand for another 100 years.
Yeah.
But what?
They say it's not usable, but I bet you it would stand for another 100 years.
You think that would stand? Have you?
Well, thanks to them taking the siding off, yeah, that does a major number on raw wood.
Oh, I didn't see it ever when I had the siding.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, or the top of it? Oh, yeah.
That's why they took the siding off and started flying all over
It started, yeah, side.
because of their neglect.
So it's a big project. It is listed on our natural hazard mitigation inventory as a dangerous building.
Mhm.
We like to see it go. I
Yeah,
don't know if you have seen, if you've ever just kind of like looked down the tracks from like H Street.
It's got a little bit of lean to it.
Yeah.
And that makes me nervous because there's a lot of houses on the other side there.
Yeah.
So if it was to go, that feels like a Shrapnel situation. So the grinding is obviously, that's on the table for consensus from council. I've had some conversations with him. It's a big grinder. Obviously, it's not gonna be quiet. They've said that it has a really good muffler and that they'll only grind every other day. Some of the things that we talked about is reducing the hours that are allowed for grinding if we allow grinding on site. So like normal work construction hours are between 7 AM and 6 PM. And that would have to be reduced because like let people drink their coffee and eat their dinner without it. The last portion of the days of the project, as they get lower, they will grind probably every day. So you're looking at grinding about every other day for the first part of the project. And then again, they're thinking 7 to 10 days for the length of the project. I think that the delays in the project length, what he had mentioned is that there's some people that are working on the project that have some conflicts in the scheduling. And so there will be a couple days during the project that the road will be fully open because it actually just won't be working. So when you're talking about the timeline, some of it is interrupted. So what is before council is to consider if you would like to allow grading on site. Or if you would, you just need to reach consensus, grading on site or not.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Thanks, fine.
especially at this point in the year too, just let's get in, get it done.
I've also been doing with noise for 99. It seems like if we're gonna add more noise, this would be the time when people are kind of used to the constant noise.
Agreed. Is there any way that we could notify / poll the people in the immediate vicinity?
Poll the people? I don't think we have enough time to poll the people.
Well, just tell them that it's going to happen and run some of this stuff by them to see, how they feel about it.
Or even just say that, I mean, if we make the decision that it's gonna happen, just say that this is gonna happen,
Yeah.
give them a heads up.
We absolutely notify people.
It'd be great if we had some.
There's not time to poll. And ask for general consensus, I don't think. And then
Or putting paneling up on the backside where there's actually, all those houses on the west side of town. Just put a big barrier up over there, so at least there's some kind of sound barrier, so it's not just bouncing off their houses the entire time.
I will make a note of that. Then we will talk to them about it, about putting up some kind of barrier.
Or just ask them if they have any concerns. This is going to happen. Do you have any concerns? Major concerns.
Are you saying ask the citizens that or ask the?
I don't know.
Company.
I'm of a mind that it's better to kind of involve them, make, people have a little bit of control over their own destiny
Right.
and just, kind of ameliorate any situation that could arise there before it happens.
So, well, how do you feel about a communication plan and then reach out to City Hall if you have any concerns and we can talk to them about it?
Sure.
It doesn't mean that if council approves it, it doesn't mean that we're gonna stop the work. It means that we'll be open to having conversations, explaining, trying to keep the timeline down.
And I just don't know how loud it's going to be.
Right, that's
Like,
I am similarly concerned. I've been Googling, like, how loud is this thing? They can have a good muffler, but how loud is the grinding?
But he's used to it all the time too. So I think the muffler to him, maybe
Yeah.
to us.
yeah.
Cause it's large.
Mhm.
Well, there used to be out on, what is it, 8th Street, when they had a plywood mill out there.
Mhm,
I mean, you could hear all the town.
you
And
could.
that was a newer one. They put that in when I was on the council 100 years ago, and it was not quiet. So I would imagine it's gonna be probably along these lines, and that's why, since you haven't brought this up, I'll bring it up anyhow. I'd rather see longer hours and have them grind them off and just get it over with.
Oh, and just go ahead and allow them to grind 7 to 6.
I know it's annoying. It's gonna be annoying one way or the other, but it's kind of like,
ripping the Band-Aid off.
yeah, well, it's like the old illustration I heard years ago, but like a sheep farmer, it hurts the sheep to dock their tail, so they just do a little bit at a time. All it does is prolong the pain.
Mhm.
Just get it over with.
How does council feel about that? If you're gonna, first, I think I'd like to know consensus on allowing it and then the time allowable. It can't be extended beyond, I guess actually council could approve beyond that. Feels kind of brutal to have it from like 6 AM but it is up to council. Provide special approval for work extended beyond the normal 7 AM to 6 PM.
Was the 7 to 10 days they gave you with the hours they proposed or with the shortened hours that you gave them?
I think that what they were saying is that they first proposed 3 weeks. And I said, nope, you can't, because they also talked about road closures. And I said, you can't close our road in 3 weeks. Because another big concern is that is if we have overlapping closures with 99, that is an access point for industry.
Mhm.
We have trucks on that road. And so they have to be able to, like, we can't lose it for that long. And be messing with trying to divert traffic.
So, and the other thing is 7 to 10 days, is that business days or is that like
Yeah.
continual?
I will ask. Because they are bringing in a crew that is from, it's a national crew and they go around and do these big demolitions. And so, I don't know if they just like work through weekends or what, because they're already on site and they're just trying to get the job
I
done.
say part of me would be like, just get in there, get it done.
Exactly.
You know, if
Yes.
it's only gonna be 7 to 10 continuous days, just let them do it. But
So consensus is let them do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
They can do it every single day of the week if they can get the job done faster.
Mhm.
Just let the
Well,
neighborhood.
can we put one, I guess, a caveat to that? That the Highway 99, whoever's in charge of that. If there's a problem, they get priority. So the Highway 90, so if shutting things down, it works for the Highway 99 project in their favor. If there's a,
Yes, and here's the thing, is because we don't own Highway 99, they will get priority regardless of.
Regardless.
but
We can-
And what I'm saying is the people doing the tower have to understand that. They may have a day where they can't work because the Highway 99 people need that road as a detour or whatever. Or
Yeah,
for their trucks or,
especially with the 1 day railroad
Yeah.
thing coming up, if there's any overlap there. And also because I've had conversations with Andrea, who is our ODOT contact. And obviously with this person, the thing I let them know is that if we are going to a full road closure on West First, that I need 48 hours notice.
Yes.
So that I can communicate with, with ODOT and figure out and put out signage and communicate with people in the neighborhood and stuff like that for a full closure. And then I also have communicated to Andrea that I need 48-hour notice from her team. If we're gonna have closures that are gonna impact those streets. Like those site accesses and stuff.
Right.
For their grinding on site, if it looks like it's gonna go over, because if they said it was gonna take 3 weeks, if they have the idea, if they can get on, if it goes over the 10 days? Is there a way that we can basically say you have, you know, this many days where you can grind on site and after that you need to be paying the truck removal because we're not gonna let you, you know, just because it's here, you can't go 3 weeks because that's what you think it's gonna take.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and we can, council can say this is how many days we're willing to allow renting on site,
Yeah.
not that's too much.
Mhm.
There's still cost savings for them there.
Right.
Yeah.
What sort of?
I was just saying, what's reasonable?
The 10 days?
10 days.
10 days, yeah.
Business days only, or not?
They're 10 work days, I
10
assume.
work days?
Yeah. Whatever their 10 days are that they're working.
Right, because if they're not working, then they're not renting.
Well, right.
Okay. So yes, and then what about the hours of operation, 7 AM to 6 or reduced grinding hours?
I eat dinner at 8.
What?
I usually eat dinner at 8.
Okay. Gabriel said. You could.
Here's the other thing that I could say is that I can say we'll start with 7 to 6 if that's what's, but if we are getting too many complaints, you
Yeah.
would right to reduce the grinding hours.
That would work.
There you go.
Okay, so 7 to 6.
If we find out they're grinding on weekends, do we want to bump the weekend one? Not 7 AM
Yeah,
on like Sunday?
I was just thinking as far as 7 o'clock during the week. Kids are up, they're going to
Yeah.
school, people are going to work, it's not, the noise is there no
Yeah,
matter what, but at least you're not waking people up, but I absolutely think
Well, if it's just-
not on weekends.
Yeah, I don't know.
reduced on weekends, period.
well, it's gonna have to be done either way. It's either gonna be a nuisance now. Or if a windstorm comes and the building falls down, all the neighbors are gonna be angry either. So
Right.
one way or the other, like people are gonna be unhappy. They're now or later.
I think people will be happy that it'll be done because I
Yeah.
know there were a lot of people that were very unhappy that it was not completed when
Oh, 100%.
it wasn't done. Because it was supposed to be completed, but
yeah.
About what their
Years.
plans are for the future.
Years.
So that's phase.
You know, several times, the gentleman who owns it is an elderly gentleman. And on several occasions, he's told me that he'll sell it to us for $1 if it wants to be done at our expense. It's not cost effective for us, and I recommend that we try to get into it like skate rink for a community center. I think that he will take it down and that he will try to get tenants into the warehouse portion. So 10.
But his plan is to immediately build something else there.
No, not to build there. I don't think so. I think that he's trying to get some tenants in there to use the useful portion. But nobody wants to mess with that. Tippy tower. No. That's it for me on that.
Okay. So I guess we're done for our short agenda. During the meeting at 8:35.